Hello, my name is Chuck Wolf. Over the years, I've worked in many different roles, including leading my own leadership consulting company since 1994. I've worked for and with some of the best companies and universities in the world, and have had the opportunity to work with government officials, military organizations, and public and private schools. I'm a leading expert and pioneer in emotional intelligence. Since 2009, I've been a volunteer hosting a radio show I created called The Emotion Roadmap: Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. I really enjoy making a difference in people's lives. The show is on award-winning community radio station WPKN in Bridgeport, Connecticut. In recent years, Simsbury Community Television has been sharing my shows on their station and on YouTube. My sincere hope is that everyone who watches regularly will learn how to use the Emotion Roadmap in their own lives by listening to people who call in to get help with challenges at work, home, and in communities. To learn more, go to www.emotionroadmap.com. If you have a comment or question, email me at cjwolf@cjwolf.com. Thank you and enjoy the show. This is Chuck Wolf, and you're listening to the Emotion Roadmap: Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. And it's a pleasure to be back with you in WPKN, radio that is community-oriented, and we are here for you as our community, and we look forward to talking with you today. I'm looking forward to callers, anybody that wishes to call in who has a question for me, something challenging in their lives that they'd like to chat about. The number is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. And again, this is Chuck Wolf, and you're listening to the Emotion Roadmap: Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. And I'm hoping you can hear this. There we go. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to talk today about a few things that I think that you'll find interesting. And I'm hoping to get some callers who are willing to share. Again, the show is designed to help people who have any kind of challenging situation in their lives where somehow the emotions are complicating what's going on for you. Challenges take place typically in people's homes, with their families, in their communities where they live, and often at the workplace. And lots of times we get conflicted and you can probably hear me better now when I have the microphone really close to me. Sorry, this has been rushed this morning. I show up for the radio show, and when I come to the radio station, what happens is I park out front, and there's meters, and typically I put in my credit card, and the meter accepts the card, and I press how much time I'm going to be here, and off we go. But in this particular case, that didn't happen. What happened was that the cards didn't work, any of them. So I'm not sure why, but Anne Marie was kind enough to go outside and put quarters in, so I should be okay for a while. Anyway, so I apologize for not talking right into the mic right away. One of the things I'd like to say to all of you who are regular listeners is welcome. Thank you for tuning in. The show is, again, the Emotion Roadmap: Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. It's on the first and second Wednesdays of each month from 12 to 1 p.m. And this particular day, I wanted to talk about organization life, because so many of us find it difficult to find help in our organizations. A lot of us are challenged when we are working in the workplace with people that we feel don't really care about us, don't seem supportive of us, and often we kind of go to work with the idea that, boy, I can't wait for this to be done. I'm really only here just to earn a paycheck so I can pay my bills and live my life. And that's unfortunate, because we spend so much time at work that it'd be wonderful if we felt like the workplace was someplace where we felt we belonged, where we felt supported, cared about, trusted, respected, valued, and so forth. And that's really what I wanted to talk about this morning. So again, while the show is designed to help you to take the wheel and control how you feel, sometimes I talk about that at an individual level with callers who call in, and ultimately the show is here to help you understand how to use this emotion roadmap I've created, which is designed to help people to think about the feelings they have. Anytime anybody who's listening feels stuck, uncertain, confused about how to proceed in their life, with whatever's going on for you, I find it's often because something emotional is happening either inside you or you're concerned about the emotional relationships with some other person who's important to you in some meaningful way. Now, it might be a family member who you love, might be a relative who again, you might love, but not always like, and yet you have to be around them. It might be a colleague at work that you don't like at all, but you have to work with. It could be somebody you work for. It could be somebody that works for you. We have challenges that surround us every day, some much more meaningful than others. But if you are one of those people who are in this present moment with what you're trying to get done, feeling stuck, challenged, uncertain about how to proceed, and what's the next step for you, what you think you need to do but are uncertain about, and you want to call in, I use the emotion roadmap, which basically starts with you giving me a somewhat short but summarized description of what's going on in your life. I repeat it back to you to make sure I got it, and you know you've been listened to. And then I ask you, okay, so it sounds like you're obviously involved, but who else is key to your circumstance and situation? And by asking them, like, who are the key people and how are you feeling and how is each key person feeling, I look to see if I can find some way to help you to think through if the feelings you currently have are not helpful. What might be ideal to feel if you could magically make something happen around emotions and you could create the feelings that you want to create that you think would be ideal for your situation? What would they be for you and for anybody else that's key? How do you do that? So I ask you to describe what's going on. I ask you to tell me about the feelings of the key people, including yourself, that are actually happening now. And I realize that when you're trying to understand or guess at what somebody else might be feeling, you may not be right. But I want to know what you think, what your perception is of what the other person is feeling or is likely to feel if you're going to have tell them about some situation coming up that they're not going to be comfortable or happy with. Obviously, if it's something you want to tell somebody that's going to be joyous, you don't need my help. But if it's something that's going to be something that might upset somebody and you're worried about that upsetting the relationship you have with them, then perhaps I can be helpful to you in explaining to you how we can think about changing feelings to feelings that are more ideal to your situation. And then you and I together think about ways that we might do that to help you. What might work here? What might make you feel the way you want and make you understand how you could impact the feelings of others in the way that you want them to feel too? What are some strategies that might work for you to do that? And then I'll ask, once we've talked about a few ideas about how you might get from the feeling you have, the current feeling, to the future more ideal feeling for you and for key others, what would it take to do that? And once we've got a few ideas about how to get there, I'll ask you, is there one of these ideas or strategies that you are absolutely capable of doing? And is it something that you're willing to do? Those are two very different questions, and they both have to, you have to be able to answer both of them with a yes. I'm capable and I'm willing for you to have an emotion-based plan for moving past where you are today to something more hopeful. That's how it works. So again, if you have something you'd like to call in about, the number's 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. I'll give you a moment to call in case you'd like to call in. And again, I want to thank all the listeners who are regular listeners that tune in on the first and second Wednesdays of each month from 12 to 1 when I'm on the air. Okay, so I'm waiting for someone, if anyone has something that they'd like to call. I remind you, as a regular listener, call early. I'm on from 12 noon to 12:55. I have 55 minutes to help people. This is what I do for a living. I'm good at this. I like helping people. It's meaningful to me. Also, importantly, when you are calling in, I realize it's not easy to do that, but when you are calling in, you're not only getting help for yourself, but I'm explaining to you and to everyone else that's listening how to use this emotion roadmap in your life. So many people call in with circumstances or situations that they feel are unique to them. I was talking with somebody the last time about a divorce situation that was in play. I was talking about somebody else who called in who had an issue with a leader that was seemingly engaging them in personal discussions about their lives, seemingly supportive, and yet there were times when that personal information was used in a way that felt like the person was being attacked, and their trust was broken. They felt betrayed, and they wanted to know if there's some way that I might be able to help them move past this, move on. And I was able to help both circumstances and situations and the people who called, and also to explain to everybody listening how I work with the emotion roadmap by first saying, tell me about your story, and then tell me what you're feeling. Identify the feelings of you and anyone that's key. And then this idea of using your feelings intelligently. If the feelings you have aren't helpful, what would be more ideal? Let's talk about that and see if we can come up with what would be ideal to feel for you and anyone else that might be involved with your situation. And then how can we move past the feelings that you have, the current feelings, to the future feelings, the more ideal feelings? What are some possible strategies to do that? And then finally, is there a strategy that you're able and willing to do? And that's it in a nutshell. But every time I use it, it's different in every situation and every call. But those are essentially the bones of the outline of how this all works. And so I like the idea that not only am I helping somebody when you call, but hopefully all of you listening and learning. So again, give you another shot at the early part of the program to give me a call. 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. Okay. So hopefully everybody that's listening, everything's working for you pretty well, and you don't feel like you need the help at the moment anyway, or you're feeling somewhat reluctant to call. I hope you don't go away feeling like, geez, I probably should have called, and I didn't. So again, if you got something, don't hesitate, call early, so I've got time to help you. Because often I can help people in 10 minutes time. Sometimes it's 15 or even 20. But if you call me towards the end of the show, then I have to just tell you what to do, and that's not really as helpful as it might be when I can work with you and we can do this together. Okay? So 203-336-9756. All right. Let me tell you what by the way, I always come in, if you're new to the show and you haven't heard the show, again, it's the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. I'm Chuck Wolf. I basically am somebody who's a leadership coach. I work with lots of different kinds of organizations over the years, many Fortune 500 companies, but I've worked with the military and government and schools, everywhere, really. And I'm really good at helping people to deal with challenging emotional situations, and it makes me feel good when I can help somebody. So selfishly, I like to be on the radio because it feels good when I can help somebody. But more broadly, I love the idea of trying to create in all of you that listen regularly, as well as anybody that's new that might want to listen regularly, help you to learn how to use emotions more intelligently in your life. Emotional intelligence is about being more intelligent about the emotions you feel, and about also changing the emotions you feel when your emotions are always informative but not always helpful. So while it's important to understand what an emotion is telling you, that anytime you feel an emotion and it's not comfortable, you try sometimes to kind of push it away. But I think it's smarter to try to understand, where is it coming from? Why is it here? What does it want me to know? So I guess one good example is that I do keynote speaking. And so when I'm speaking to a group of people and I'm really all excited, I'm confident, I know my information, I'm about to present it, and I'm ready to go, and I might get a call that just something awful happened to somebody I know, and I got to deal with that too. Well, I've got my first caller. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
My name is Patrick.
Hi, Patrick. Thanks for calling. How can I help you today?
How you doing, Chuck? Thanks for taking my call.
I'm doing good.
Yeah,
thanks.
I have. I don't know that I could even name the range of emotions currently in my life. My father, and this is what it's related to, is 88 and has a number of different health issues. We had a scare recently that almost looked like end of life. He's holding on now. He could live for a year, 2 years, maybe even more. But it's a delicate situation right now. He's currently in the hospital. He's getting good care. Moving to a rehab, but we don't know what the future is. One thing is he's dead set against going to a nursing home. And, for 2 weeks there, I was like primary caregiver, not something that I'm good at nor want to do. So just a lot going on and a whole range of emotions related to it.
So the emotions you're feeling, can you describe any of them?
It's kind of like, well, first of all, I worry about him. He's 88. He's had a great life. He's been a good dad. So should he, pass, I'm okay with it. I think maybe it's related to being put in a position where he's asking me for care compared to a professional, which maybe part of that is like, wait a second, I'm your son. I'm not your caretaker. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So maybe some resentment there. Fear is going to be part of it because it's an unknown being in this world without my father. And, fear about regret. So I want to be involved. I want to be engaged. I want to be a part of it. Should this be termed as end of life sort of thing? But there's only so much I can do. I have a wife, kid, job. I want to continue to be helpful, but I can't take on the role as prime caretaker either. Whole range.
Well, Patrick, I think you did a great job explaining how you're feeling. So there's the way this works is I'm also going to ask you how you think your dad's feeling, because I think it's important. And by the way, there's other people involved too. How your spouse might feel, how your child might feel about all this. But I think the two key people right now are you and your dad. And at the moment, I'm going to ask you how your dad's feeling, and I'm going to ask you, what do you want to feel? And then let's see if we can help with that. Okay.
My dad's been really open. He said, Patrick, if I go, I'm ready to go. He has fear about dying. He's expressed that. I'm like, why? And he says, well, it's an unknown. He also feels fearful that someone's going to put him in a nursing home. His brain is 100%. He's sharp as a tack.
Mm-hmm.
So he has that fear. Otherwise, he gets bored and he gets lonely.
Okay, so I think I got how both of you are feeling. What would be ideal, let's say, for your dad to feel? Let's start with that and then come back to you.
My dad to feel, I don't know. It's hard for me to speak for others. I suppose he would want to feel inspired and hopeful.
Okay. Inspired, hopeful, cared about, supported.
Supported, yeah, mm-hmm. Cared about.
Yeah. And somehow safe, I think, is important to him.
Safe, yeah. That's a good one.
Okay. And how about you? I know what you're feeling. What would you like to feel? If you could, whatever we talk about and whatever plans get it put into place. I might be part of the planning process, but you've got a lot to think about and plan for, obviously. So what would you like to feel ideally at the end of all that planning? What would you like to have happen in terms of feelings?
I would like to feel that my life is manageable. I'm able to participate, which would make me feel grateful, I suppose, to be able to help. And I want to feel content. I want to feel that resolved in that I did what I could do to help. I want to feel engaged because I want to be part of it. If we're talking about end of life stuff, we don't have too many chances at this.
Right.
I want to feel a part of it. So I think those are some things that I want to feel.
Okay, so we basically have sort of carved out what you are feeling, what your dad is feeling, and where you want to end up in terms of both of you in a better place in terms of how you're feeling about what's going on. There's no stopping what's happening. It might be something that end of life could be, as you said, somewhat quickly. It could be a few years from now. But there's certain circumstances you've also described that your dad doesn't want to have happen, and it feels like he's kind of leaning on you, I think, and that's part of what's causing you concern because you've got all these other responsibilities, and yet you want to be involved, you want to be engaged, but you don't really want to be the caretaker.
That's the tension. That's right? Exactly it, Chuck.
Okay. All right. So having got what you said, I'm sure you're already thinking about some things to do. So what might create the feelings that we talked about for you and your dad? Have you had some thoughts about what you think might come next?
In terms of what he's going to need?
Yeah, and what you're able and willing to do.
Well, he's in a holding pattern right now, so maybe the next 3 weeks are somewhat taken care of for him. He has a procedure, a surgery that is yet to be scheduled, but it should be scheduled in 3 weeks, and then so it's a bit of a day-to-day situation right now, where right now the needs are just go visit him, which I will do today. But I can't predict the future. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. There's variables that are unanswered. So I don't know what's going to happen, after 3 weeks or a month. I don't know what he's going to. I don't know what he's going to need.
Let's assume for the moment that he's going to make it for a period of time, because obviously things could end quickly. But let's assume he's going to be around for a while, and you have to have some way of caring for him that is something opposite of a nursing home. And have you explored any alternatives that might be somewhat realistic that over time your dad could accept? I mean, maybe even welcome.
No, because we haven't had to. I foresee that the day will come sooner rather than later, and likely it would be paying for support at his house.
Do you have any kind of? Well, first of all, I think there's. I think what happens is people's, have their whatever resources they have get exhausted, and then sometimes the government helps out. But if they have resources and that's not the problem, then you don't have to worry about that part of it. Are you in a place where financially don't have the resources and you got to figure that out too?
He's got resources.
Okay, so it's not about financial.
Whether he's willing to expend them for his own care is another question.
Yeah.
But again, we'll find out as the need arises.
So,
but he's got resources.
Okay, so my guess is you haven't really been in any. Sometimes I'd like to ask the question, Patrick, have you ever been in a situation where there didn't seem to be any possible way to get to closure in a good way, and you had to confront it and you could move past it? But I think this is kind of unique. You haven't had a situation quite like this, I'm guessing, ever before in your life where you were facing somebody you love, needed this kind of care, and you weren't quite sure what to do. I'm assuming this is a brand new circumstance for you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so then the question becomes how to be creative around this. If in talking with your dad, I suspect this happened in the past where he wasn't able to come to grips with the decision he had to make in the past, and you were able to help him through it. Not obviously about this, but anything else that might relate to that. Is there any time that you can think of when your dad was having a hard time making decisions and you were a resource that he pulled in and you were able to help him to come to some kind of decision? Good or bad, he made a decision and moved forward. Can you think of anything in the past that was like that?
Not big ones, but little ones. But bigger decisions, he decided on his own. He didn't necessarily seek feedback. He has a very strong personality, and he's shown himself to be very competent throughout his life. So, but little things he'll ask for advice on: car purchasing, clothes, bikes, stuff like that. And he brings me in, or any technology issues. So he brings me in for those things. I help out.
Okay, so going forward, you need to find a way to put up some kind of plan, a thoughtful process together for you to come away from this phone call feeling like, hey, that was worth it, with some idea of what you could do that's different than what you might have thought about before you called. And so let me ask you, at this point, are you okay with me suggesting a couple of things?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it sounds like your dad's a really smart guy, and he's made a lot of his own decisions. On occasion, he's brought you in. That's what I just heard, right?
Yep.
So in your meeting with him today, I mean, right now, I think when people are first reacting, to like a circumstance, a huge, enormous change in their lives, which this probably represents for your dad, this kind of final chapter stuff, it's scary. And you're not really at a place where you can be a rational problem solver necessarily. So you may not have a conversation that you can comfortably try to problem solve. And I think jumping too quick into problem solving is a problem in itself. So maybe today is just about listening. But while you're listening and while he's talking about what's going on for him and his concerns and repeating back to him and just reminding him what a good problem solver he's been all his life, and asking him, not advising him, but asking him, so Dad, what do you think, given these different situations that you're telling me about, not you bring up, but things that you hear him say, like, I don't want to go to a nursing home. Then what do you want to do, Dad? What are the possibilities? Because really, what I want to do is I want to hear from you, and I want to start thinking about how I can be helpful to you. That feels supportive, right?
Yep.
And in asking him about that, you'll find if you allow him the space and you remind him about what a good problem solver is, you're tying into the strengths that he's exhibited in the past that he knows are true about himself. So you're not making stuff up. And you're just asking him to use those resources to move ahead. This new problem for us. We haven't dealt with this before. What are you thinking, Dad? What do you want me to look up? What do you want me to research for you? What do you want me to find out? What are some things I can do to be helpful? And if he goes to the place where I want you to take care of me, you gotta let him know. Well, okay, I understand that, Dad. You also know what else is going on in my life, so I will, to the best of my ability, I want to be there every step of the way I can for you. But I also got other people that are dependent on me too. So I will do that. But what else can we do? So you don't ignore it. You don't say you're going to be full time. That's what I'm doing next for the next however long you need, Dad, because that's not realistic. But you still sound supportive. You're going to do what you can, and let's plan. And I think based on the way you told me your dad thinks and acts, he's enough of a problem solver and a rational and actually sounds like an excellent thinker, a bright guy. He's going to start thinking, this is what I need to think about. And you're talking about contingencies, not that you bring up, that he brings up. So it feels like you're only helping support the things he's already thinking about as opposed to telling him what he needs to do next, which is how a lot of people feel.
I like it.
So that's how it starts. And then you got to explore with him things that make sense, right? That you feel that are possible. And it's just the beginning of, what's hopefully a long conversation, because hopefully he lives a long, he has a few good years left with you, and you work out how you're going to get care for him, and ultimately you find something in some place and someone that can come in and help him in times when he needs to be helped regularly, and you're there pretty regular too, but not to the place where you're giving up everything else in your life to do this.
Got it.
Does that help?
It's helpful. Thank you, Chuck.
All right. Thanks for calling, Patrick. I appreciate the call, and good luck with it.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay, that's how the show works, folks. It's about helping people and trying to walk you through what's possible. So 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. Again, every circumstance is unique, and I've been doing this a long time, so I'm going to be able to draw on in different ways on different ideas and what I know to be important in conversations like the one Patrick just talked to me about, and try to help you think through what you might do. Now, if it was clear you might have done something like this, or Patrick had that experience with his dad on something similar somewhere before, it'd be more about Patrick's ideas for this. But when there was clear this is a brand new experience for he and his dad, then I wanted to offer some ideas. But I always ask permission first so that a person's ready. And I always ask, what are you thinking about doing and what's going on before I just offer what might be obvious. Somebody else might jump in and say, hey, you know what I'd like to offer? I know this great service agency. I know this great group of people. And then you're arguing because my dad doesn't want to do that. He doesn't really want anybody else in the house. He doesn't like new people. And then you're in a conversation where it feels like I'm trying to be helpful, but I feel like it's turned into not a discussion, but an argument. And that's not helpful at all. And yet, in trying to be helpful, I wanted to right away suggest what I thought you should do. But instead of what I've learned over the years is fully understand where the person's starting from. Where is Patrick? Where is his dad starting from? And when Patrick's talking to his dad, he can't just tell his dad what to do. His dad needs to arrive at these things on his own with Patrick helping to guide the discussion. Hopefully, I gave him some tools to help kind of clear the roadway of any obstacles to make that happen. So, again, good luck, Patrick, with that. Okay, if anybody else wants to call, the number is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. Okay, so what I wanted to talk to you about was, okay. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hey, Chuck, it's Doug McLeod here. We've spoken in the past. How are you doing? It's great to hear your voice again on air.
Thanks, Doug. Nice to talk with you, too.
And very helpful. What you were saying, it kind of was dovetailing with a conversation that I was having with our family. My wife and my brother-in-law are speaking with their father. My father-in-law, who's 82 years old, and he has early onset dementia, which he's been diagnosed, and he's working through a plan to just make the most out of his life. And the struggle that my wife and my brother-in-law are having with him is he just won't write a will. So they now have power of attorney, and they've gone through a lot of the kind of the legal aspects of ensuring that he'll be taken care of going forward. But he's remarried. He has a young family, and he just hasn't made really any provisions. So that's a conversation that's been ongoing for probably a year, maybe a little over a year now. I mean, historically, he was the type of guy that would always assure us that everything was taken care of, that don't you worry, that my affairs are all in order. But kind of when it came out that that he had this diagnosis, and they began to look at his plans for the future, it turned out that he really had no will written down, and find it very, very difficult to commit his thoughts and his wishes into a document that will help guide us beyond his life. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts about how do you handle something like that. I think that I'll just go off the air and listen to what your thoughts are.
Well, can I ask you one question before you go, Doug? Just is there likely to be an argument about what is given to who? I mean, in other words, he's got a young family and a new wife. The two people that he's charged with taking care of or being responsible for carrying out whatever executive responsibilities arise at the time of his life ending, are not the person who he's married to. It's his two children from his previous, his wife, I guess. And so is there going to be controversy over how things get divided? Is that a problem?
Well, I think in his mind it is, because part of the conversation, and what's wonderful is they have a Friday. Every Friday there's a conversation, there's a call, with him, his wife, my brother-in-law, and my wife, to talk about how the week went, what plans they're making, how what needs to be done, in terms of all of the kind of the aspects, for care in the future. And what has been agreed was that at some point, when he does need to go into long-term care, how that will be paid for, and the idea would be that the main asset, being their condominium, would be sold, to provide for his care, and that the remaining part of that asset sale, would go to be put as a down payment on a new property or an apartment, for his wife. his son, my brother-in-law, is 16 years old. So he'll be going to university, in the next 2 years. So really, what he'll need to provide for, obviously, is his wife, and her, and her accommodation. But he also needs to provide for himself and his care. Happily, he does live in London, in the UK, and there is a bit of a social safety net, there. But that's really the contentious part. Is he doesn't want really to put into his will that his assets will be divided 50% or whatever the percentage is for his care going forward, and the other 50% to take care of his wife and her accommodation.
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of complications here, and no easy solutions. I guess, what are some things you've already tried, Doug, just to get those out of the way, to try to get him to do something around this?
Well, just a continuing conversation. My wife has written he visited us here about 2 months ago. Set up, went through kind of how easy it is to write a will now. Kind of using software and just putting all your ideas down. He likes to write things out. He's got beautiful handwriting. He loves to write long lists, and he put all of his. He was very, very cogent. Put together, all of his ideas, down on paper. It's actually having him put those ideas into a final will or a living will, for want of a better term.
Okay.
And then having that witnessed and made into an actual kind of a document which can be kind of serviceable to him and his needs going forward.
So the likelihood of him doing that sounds slim at the moment. Is that right?
Yes, it is. Again, it's we take it in in turns. It's an ongoing conversation, and again, my wife and my brother-in-law use some of the tactics that you just enumerated, in terms of putting it to him as to what he would like to see. We're very grateful for the care that he receives from his loving wife. She's entitled to everything that she gets.
Sure.
And it's just really trying to ensure that that he has everything that he needs. When he can no longer kind of voice what his wants and needs are going forward. So I think we're going to try again in November. My wife will go over to London. This will be a continual conversation. It's just trying to, I think probably my advice to my wife and my brother-in-law is that stepmother needs to be brought into that conversation so that she doesn't feel that she is being separated from or cut out of the will in any way, that that she's very much on board, and that part of the she just feels that that the state will take care of everything, and we know that that's even with a national health service like they have in the UK, that's just not going to be the case.
I'm sorry. Who needs to be included? You just entered a different person.
Oh no. So his wife needs to be included in that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
and up until now, we've left it really to him to have that conversation. But I think that probably she needs to be brought into that conversation with my brother-in-law and my wife, as to kind of to specify what her needs are, and lay it out so that there are no surprises.
So maybe I guess in the trying to be helpful. Let me okay to suggest something to you that might be. I don't know if it's possible because this is very complicated, but I have some thoughts of that might be useful. Okay to share.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Sure. Go.
So one of the things that I'm thinking is that when you want to, your wife needs to convince your dad that how does he want all of us to feel once he's no longer able to make decisions about what happens, going forward with any of these things that he's already written out, but he hasn't done anything about confirming. How does he expect us to feel? How does he want us to feel? And if he understands the complications that arise from undocumented, even though he might have wrote something, and the contentious feelings that might put people against each other and and leave his legacy as something where people are at each other's, throats because of what he didn't do. Is that really what you want, Dad?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
So, and then if he's open to it, and by the way, he may not be when you first say it. But I'd just like you to think about that, Dad. I'm not asking you to decide anything now, but just think about what do you want us to think and feel about you when you can no longer communicate with us. Because we love you, we care about you, we want all of this to go as best we can, and I thought you would too. So that's the emotional appeal, the motivation, I think. The second is, so how do you do it? I think one of the, while you might have these software programs that allow you to write wills and et cetera, I think you want to find a lawyer in the UK that your wife, your brother-in-law, and his current wife, your father-in-law's current wife, all agree on, that has had experience with families going through something similar, and really feels like they will try and create a win-win scenario for everybody. Because I think these are very hard things to do because there's so much emotion caught up in all of it. But if you have a professional who has a reputation for bringing families together as opposed to just being a bulldog that fights for what they think the person needs, because that's what happens on the other side of this. Everybody hires a bulldog, as opposed to all of you agreeing on a lawyer that will help your dad write a will that everybody understands and feels reasonably good about. Nobody's going to get everything they want, but reasonably good about. And your dad can go into this knowing that his legacy is something positive as a model for how to bring people together in a very tough circumstance. Does that help?
No, I think so. I think what you're talking about is almost having, an attorney or a solicitor act as a kind of an arbiter, to kind of, to bring the parties together, and even though it's all one family, right now, kind of talk things, through and help decide. So I think that that's the rational side of it, and then the emotional side of it, is something that that we are working on. We do work on the emotional side, and he gets very emotional.
Yeah,
because,
sure.
He gets, and I think that again, trying not to pressure him into deciding right now, but to pivot on that point and make it about how does he want all the parties to feel, gives him some food for thought and something that he can actually work on actualizing. So I appreciate it. I knew I could count on you. I thought I would reach out.
That's nice. Hey, let me make one other point very clearly. This is a lawyer, because what happens often is people get their own lawyers, right? If it's not done and everybody's fighting in a courtroom or trying to settle outside of court. But what I'm suggesting is it's your dad's lawyer who's helping him with this will, who has the experience of talking to the parties that are going to be recipients of whatever there is to be given. And he's tasked with the idea of your dad wants him to create as much as a win-win possibility for everybody involved, not just write the will.
Yeah. No, I think that's we'll give it a go in November, and I'll reach out to you as a sidebar and let you know how it goes.
Thanks a lot, Doug, and good luck with it too.
All right, good talking to you. Thanks, Chuck. All the best. Have a great summer.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye now. Okay, so the calls today were about people with caregiving. It's interesting. I'm working with a woman at Yale who's a faculty member named Joan Monum, who we are looking at what are the roles and responsibilities of caregiving and how to write an emotion roadmap help. So at the end of this conversation, when this particular archive of radio show is archived, I'm going to send along both your conversations today, Patrick and Doug, and because this woman, Joan, is a faculty member who specializes in long-term caregiving and finding ways to make that whole circumstance easier and better for all the people involved. And she felt like when we first met, that the emotion roadmap could be a tool in her toolbox that she wants to let the world know about, and all the organizations that she works with that are involved with this kind of circumstance where people at the end of life are dealing with lots and lots of emotional charged issues. And it's really hard for family members to try to be rational and use the different things that they learned over their life, the different experiences and knowledge to try to create win-win circumstances for everybody that's involved in something like you just described, Doug, and Patrick described earlier. So thanks for the calls. I hope that this, again, illuminates and elucidates for people, other people who are going through similar kinds of struggles, ways in which you might think about being helpful. I did want to talk a little bit about this idea of the concept of what I call Eros, the Greek god of love who was created passion. I think, as I started to talk about in the very beginning of the show, about workplaces where people feel the lack of support, feel like they don't belong, sometimes feel bullied even at work. How can you turn a workplace into a place where the culture is so healthy, so supportive, so caring, so energized, so inspired that people really, really like, even love going to work? How can you create a passionate workplace where people care about each other, where people who are connected to the organization in any way, whether employees, family members, people that support the organization as vendors, people that are customers, people in the communities where the organization resides? How can everyone feel special about what this organization brings every day? What do workers need to feel? What I'd like, if you've got, I've got a few more minutes left. If anybody's got something they could share, it'd be really helpful. Have you ever been in a workplace, been part of a team that felt inspired, that felt fully engaged, that when you went to work, you felt like it was like, wow, today is work day. I get to go to work with all these neat people, do wonderful things, make people feel good about their circumstances, work together collaboratively, be inspired, be creative, feel safe and belonging, feel supported, respected. Well, what actually did you feel when you've gone through any kind of work time experience where you felt anything close to that? Can you tell me what was going on and what you were feeling? Because I view my audience as people who are smart. Obviously, the two people I just talked to, you, Doug, and you, Patrick, smart people, really, really clear-headed, good thinkers, challenged with a circumstance that anybody would be challenged by, looking for some expert help. Well, I find that when I ask, sometimes I get great information from my listening audience about things that I'm exploring now. And I'm exploring, what does it take to make employees feel special, inspired, engaged? What circumstances can you tell me about? And what are the feelings they created for you? And if you got a minute or two that you can share a story or two about any time you've ever felt like that, that'd be great. The number to call is 203-336-9756. And I hope I've got listeners who've got something they can share around that, because I'd like not only for you to tell me about it, but for everybody listening to know, what does it take to create that kind of workplace? So 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. Well, I'd like to say the phone lines are full, but I don't have anybody calling in about this. I'll give you a few things that I think make life special for people at work. Okay. But I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear real stories from real people about this. So again, 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. If you got a story, call it in, would you? Thanks. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Thanks for calling. Who am I talking to?
Hey, hi, Chuck. My name's Bob.
Hi, Bob.
And I just wanted to comment on your thought as far as what makes people happy when they work. Myself, I think it's appreciation for what you do, compensation, obviously, respect, feeling as if your ideas are appreciated. Those are important things, I think.
Great. Do you have any examples of something that's happened to you at all in the workplace where you felt that way?
Honestly, I can't honestly say I do, because I worked for the federal government for like 4 years, and to be honest with you, I didn't see a lot of that where you could contribute and your ideas would be appreciated, that kind of thing. So
yeah, so
I kind of wish I was working.
This is what you would hope would happen. This is what you're thinking would happen. That would make you feel special, right? I think you gave 3 great examples. I think you appreciate it. I think the idea of trying to create an environment like this, you have to be creative. Not everybody gets this, and I think, Bob, you're not alone. Whether it's the federal government or lots of different organizations, don't make people feel this way. That's what's typical.
No, and the problem is it tends to be cliques. I see where groups of people tend to, gather and treat each other with more respect, or they get better benefits, and it could be based on the fact that they're all into baseball or they're into football or they're, whatever it might be. And a lot of times it's managers or high-level bosses that get into these cliques, and then they just kind of promote up their people. It's a sad thing, really.
Yeah, it's understandable at one level, because when people first go to work, it's like, who are these other people, and what do I have in common with them? And then when you find there's a number of people, especially if they're the people in charge, who actually care about something that you care about, and you connect with that, it's like it makes it easy for everybody, because we know we got something to talk about, as opposed to we've got to go on a business trip together and we don't really have anything that we share in terms of values or things that we care about, and it's awkward. So when you got something like that, I think it's normal behavior for people to want to do that. I think what I'm doing in the work that I'm doing these days is trying to get people to move past that. To just do as you said, appreciate people's ideas. Appreciate and value
respect people, and that's a big thing. I mean, I'm retiring this month, actually, after 40 years. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, it depends, I think, on how you were raised and brought up, but you got to get beyond this thing where, he's a Chinese, he's a black, all that racism stuff. It's just got to go. People are people. We're all spirits locked in these little packages called bodies, mm-hmm. and we're all the same. And we just got to get beyond that, I think, honestly. Myself, when I first started with my job, I got into I don't know, I did the wrong thing. I was we voted in a union. I supported the union. And then I was approached by upper management, and they basically said, hey, we think you'd be a good guy to be a union rep so you could work with us. And I thought, okay, maybe it'll help your career, blah, blah, blah. Oh, sure. And so I did. I became a union rep. But what I found was the management would come to me and they'd want me to pass things that were going to hurt the workforce. You can't do this anymore. Things that would actually impact pay and things like that. And I pushed back. And so I think what happened there is I just pushed back and I upset the wrong people, and that was it. So they kind of held me down, but that's how it goes,
It is how it goes often. Yeah, no, it's interesting. One time I was working for Exxon. I've only got a minute left here, but I was working with Exxon, and they asked me to work on this idea of trying to maintain non-union status. And what I discovered is the way you maintain non-union status is you have good management. It's not rocket science. When people are happy with the people who are supportive of them in the workplace, they feel respected, they feel valued and appreciated. They don't want to belong to unions. Unions
right?
come about
And
because
absolutely,
management isn't working.
that's correct. And we didn't want a union. It was just that the government decided they were going to change the pay scale and the pay system. And then when we saw the lawyers jump the ship and join a union, start a union, we thought, well, maybe we need one too to represent our interests when we negotiate a new pay package. And that's kind of how it started. It wasn't like people were upset with management or this or that. It was just that they wanted to change. They
wanted benefits that they could count on and real negotiations. That isn't always the case. Hey, Bob, I've got to go, but thank you. I'll tell you this one thing, and then I'm going to close. One of the things I'm trying to do is that in big companies now, a lot of them, they've talked about shared values. And so, like, respect is often a value. People say, that's in our organization. We're supposed to respect others. And that's different. When I say shared feelings but do you feel respected? And are you respectful to others? And I got to close with that, Bob. Thanks so much for the call.
All right. Hey, thanks. Have a good day.
Bye-bye now. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Chuck Wolf, The Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. First and second Wednesdays each month. Bye-bye.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.